In a bustling cafe on a Saturday afternoon, the atmosphere buzzed with laughter and conversations. Groups of friends gathered around tables, sharing stories and sipping coffee. Among these lively interactions sat Matthew, feeling out of place. They looked around the room, watching others talk and smile easily. In this crowded space, Matthew felt a deep sense of loneliness. Although people surrounded them, they felt completely isolated. The sounds of laughter seemed distant, like a world Matthew could not enter. It appeared simple for others to connect, but for Matthew, making conversation felt like an uphill battle. Matthew took a deep breath, but the pressure felt heavier with each passing moment. The pressure to connect and fit in became overwhelming. They worried about what others thought. Would people like them? What if Matthew said something wrong? The more they tried to think of a way in, the less clear their mind became. Nervous thoughts raced through their head like wild cars on a busy street. Every glance around the room brought a swirl of anxiety. Instead of finding comfort in the crowd, Matthew felt like an outsider peering into a joyful life they could not touch. This fear spun in circles, trapping Matthew in a bubble of self-doubt and hesitation, pulling them further away from engagement. This situation is something many of us face, whether in big events or small gatherings. Almost everyone has felt a lack of connection at some point in their lives. It happens at work parties where everyone seems to know each other. It also appears at family gatherings, where the joy can feel too much for someone. This common struggle makes it easy to lose sight of oneself in a sea of interactions. Many disregarded their own feelings because they think others might be more skilled in social settings. This leads to the misconception that they are alone in their difficulty. The truth is everyone grapples with their unique social hurdles. Maybe they have just moved to a new town or are unsure what to say when introduced to someone new. Facing social situations can feel like stepping into a spotlight, with all eyes watching your every move. Understanding this common feeling creates a bridge to an important lesson about social skills. If Matthew can learn how to step outside their comfort zone, maybe everyone else can too. Social struggles are shared experiences among us all. They provide a starting point for building better relationships. Learning to communicate effectively and overcome anxiety can create bonds with others. By recognizing the struggles in social scenarios, we can challenge ourselves to foster more connections. Each of us has the potential to shift from isolation to embracing new friendships. Though Matthew faced hints of doubt, they were also at the forefront of a journey that could inspire growth and confidence in navigating the worlds of relationships. As Matthew sat alone in the cafe, they felt the heavy weight of their emotions. This wasn't new for them. For many years, social situations had felt like climbing a high mountain with no path to the top. At school, Matthew often stood on the sidelines during group activities, watching other kids laugh and chat. When teachers asked questions, Matthew would stay quiet, fearing their voice would break the silence. This sense of fear followed them into adulthood. Each time they walked into a new group, doubt seeped in like a shadow. Matthew started to believe they were not good at making friends. Matthew had tried to find ways to connect, but the nervousness was a strong barrier. They avoided parties and gatherings, thinking it was better to stay home. Yet, the more they stayed away, the more lonely they felt. Friends always called, asking where they were. They felt sad each time they turned down an invitation. In their heart, Matthew wished for deeper connections. Yet, every time they imagined the gathering, worries would cloud their thoughts. What if there was no one to talk to? What if they made an embarrassing mistake while speaking? When Matthew finally mustered the courage to join a social event, their heart raced. The door opened to laughter and friendly faces. For a moment, excitement sparked, but then their insecurities flooded back. Instead of approaching a group, Matthew stood back, trying to hide behind a decorative plant. The happy voices seemed to bounce around them, but none came in Matthew's direction. They noticed how others spoke smoothly, sharing jokes and stories effortlessly. For Matthew, standing off to the side felt easier than risking connection. As the evening passed, Matthew's heart sank deeper. They watched others connect and feel happy. A knot formed in their stomach as the idea of stepping forward seemed more daunting. Glancing around, Matthew saw familiar faces, yet they felt like strangers. Thoughts raced through their head. Their mind told them they lacked charm or didn't have interesting stories to share. The fear built, but somewhere underneath, a small voice whispered that change was possible. Deep down, they wanted to connect. They envisioned friendships built on easy laughter and deeper conversations. Feeling trapped in their mind, Matthew decided to make small changes one day at a time. They practiced talking to friends over a cup of coffee, trying to let go of the fear that came with stepping out of their comfort zone. In their favorite local cafe, discussion began to flow more easily, especially with the staff. They felt warmth in those small exchanges with familiar faces. Each time they spoke, the weight of anxiety lessened, but the bigger tasks still loomed ahead. Matthew reminded themselves of their dreams to build real connections. The hope for a brighter social life began to feel closer. They found strength in the small steps and little victories. Every exchange was an opportunity to learn and grow. Whether it was a smile from someone new or a laugh with an old friend, they realized it started with trying. The struggles weren't doomed by failure. Instead, they were stepping stones towards making those needed connections in life, showing that each difficult moment brought them closer to the change they desired. Matthew felt a glimmer of hope as they stepped out of their house for a new day. They promised themselves they would take small steps to connect with others. However, the journey became more challenging than they expected. During the week, an invitation arrived from a coworker named Jamie. Jamie was organizing a game night at their apartment. Matthew felt a mix of excitement and fear. This was a real chance to connect with others. Yet, each thought of going filled Matthew with doubt. What would they talk about? Would everyone else enjoy the game? On the night of the event, Matthew dressed carefully. They chose their favorite shirt, hoping it would help them feel more confident. When they arrived, a part of them sparked with happiness. The laughter and fun in the room were infectious. Friends chatted over snacks, and the warmth of each smile invited Matthew in. But as soon as they entered, the feelings of unease returned. Matthew lingered by the entrance, sipping on a soda, watching the others interact. They caught bits of conversations, filled with jokes and excitement. Yet, despite standing so close, Matthew felt miles away from the joy in the room. When the game started, Matthew attempted to join a group, but their initial excitement quickly faded. Trying to share a funny story about a similar event flopped. Instead of laughter, only awkward silence followed. The group shifted their attention, leaving Matthew feeling embarrassed. Even simple game rules felt hard to follow as their heart raced. Hearing the laughter around them heightened their discomfort and anxiety. It felt like a spotlight shining brightly on their insecurities. Matthew quietly retreated to the corner, feeling defeated and unsure. This was not how they had imagined the night going. The room buzzed with happiness, but for Matthew, there was darkness within. They wished to connect, yet stumbling into awkwardness was more familiar than success. They remembered their conversation with the cafe staff that felt easy before, wondering why it was so difficult now. Each failure weighed on their heart like a heavy stone. As groups played and laughed, Matthew thought about leaving. A simple feeling began to grow, a desire to hide. It was as if they expected everyone could see their social struggles. Just then, Jamie noticed Matthew standing alone. They walked over and smiled warmly. "Hey, it's good to see you. Want to join the next game?" Matthew's heart leaped but also tightened with fear. What if they made a mistake? The feeling of being judged crept in, but they couldn't stand back any longer. Matthew took a deep breath, clenched their fists, and walked over with Jamie. They reminded themselves that connection was not impossible. Maybe this was the chance to change their story. Perhaps one step could lead to many. Even as the game started, Matthew's nerves increased, yet Jamie's smile reassured them. With every question and laughter shared, a small flame of hope ignited within. Matthew felt more at ease with each new round. This moment was not about being perfect or charming. It was about participating. For the first time that night, they realized that each mistake wasn't the end. Rather, it was just part of the journey. Each awkward moment could lead to positive experiences, giving Matthew a new sense of direction toward their goals. As the laughter surrounded them, their hearts swelled with cautious optimism, ready to embrace these new connections. As the game night continued, Matthew began to feel lighter. With each round, they laughed a little more and worried a little less. However, just when they thought things were going well, the turning point came during a lively game of charades. The room was filled with energy, and players seemed to be in high spirits. But when it was Matthew's turn, everything changed. Matthew stood up, heart racing yet excited. They felt the mixture of hope and nervousness rumbling in their chest. The moment they began to act out their word, panic surged. It was a simple word, cat, but their mind went blank. They froze. Others watched, waiting for Matthew to make a move. In that moment of silence, the room's energy felt heavy. Instead of laughter and encouragement, all Matthew heard was the mounting pressure to perform. After a few awkward seconds, they stumbled clumsily around, trying to guess what to do next. Just as the crowd began to giggle, Matthew's face burned with embarrassment. The laughter wasn't gentle. It felt sharp, cutting deeper into their spirit, awakening all the worries that lay dormant for so long. While others laughed off mistakes, Matthew's anxiety peaked, and they felt trapped inside. They turned away, barely managing a shy smile as they looked at the floor, unwilling to meet anyone's gaze. In the back of their mind, a voice suddenly broke through the noise. It was Jamie's voice. Earlier, at the cafe, Jamie had taken time to show kindness and patience. Now, as they moved closer, Jamie leaned in and said softly, "Hey, don't worry about it. Everyone makes mistakes. Just have fun. It's about being together." Those words struck deep within Matthew. In that moment, the understanding that they were not alone flooded their mind. They realized they did not have to be perfect to belong. That insight sparked a powerful moment of self-reflection. Matthew paused and took a deep breath, pulling themselves back from the edge of doubt. They remembered how far they had come since stepping into the cafe, hiding behind a plant. Making connections had been difficult, but they were trying. Maybe making mistakes was part of the process. The fear of failure could no longer hold them hostage. There was a good reason to be there, and it was much greater than the desire to perform well. It was the hope of building friendships. In that blink of an eye, Matthew felt something shift inside. They didn't want to let fear dictate their actions any longer. Instead, they wanted to embrace challenges and accept that growth often came from mistakes. Trembling just a little bit, they took a stand. "Okay, I'm going to have fun," Matthew half yelled over the laughter that echoed around them. They raised their hands, ready to try again. It no longer mattered if they were perfect. What mattered was the desire to take part, to connect with those around them. With renewed energy, Matthew took their place and acted out the next word with gusto. It didn't matter what happened. They were on the journey of getting better. The laughter felt warm now, like a circle of kindness growing around Matthew. They realized their social fears had no power over them anymore. At that moment, Matthew made the huge decision to embrace their social journey and commit to finding joy in the connections ahead. This was a choice to break free, embracing challenges rather than running from them. Their hearts swelled with hope, ready for whatever connections awaited. With a new sense of purpose, Matthew immersed themselves in the game again. They threw themselves into the actions, moving around and being silly. Genuine laughter filled the space while Jamie clapped and cheered them on. That small moment sparked what felt like a transformation in Matthew's heart. They decided it was time to practice their social skills outside of this fun evening. Reminding themselves that everyone makes mistakes brought clarity. With this thought, they knew that they could take their learnings into everyday situations. The following week, as Matthew returned to work, they felt nervous yet excited. A fresh opportunity awaited them. At the coffee station, Matthew saw Maria, a colleague known for her bright smile and friendly demeanor. This time, they held their head high, reminding themselves of the previous night's empowerment. Gathering their courage, Matthew stepped forward and greeted Maria with a confident, "Hi there, how is your day going?" The warmth of their voice surprised even them. Maria turned with a bright smile, looking genuinely pleased to be approached. "Hi, Matthew. My day is good, thank you. Just busy with the new project." The ease in Maria's response helped lift the earlier tension from Matthew's shoulders. They continued their conversation, asking Maria questions about the project while practicing active listening. This meant paying close attention to her words and nodding occasionally. The dialogue flowed naturally as they exchanged small stories about their work experiences. As the conversation wrapped up, Matthew felt a sense of accomplishment. It was a small step, but a very important one. They were still surrounded by folks at work, and while some were absorbed in their own conversations, Matthew felt less anxiety this time. Just speaking with Maria felt lighter. After that interaction, Matthew made it a goal. They wished to say a simple hello more regularly, showing interest in others' lives. Each smile exchanged and every shared experience would serve as more practice, taking away the fear of future social connections. Encouraged by that small victory with Maria, Matthew wanted to continue. The next day, while waiting for the elevator, they saw a couple of coworkers chatting. Instead of tightening up with nerves, Matthew took a deep breath and joined in. "Hey, did you all see that new cafe opened up down the street? I hear it's great." Those words broke the awkwardness that hung in the air. They responded with enthusiasm, raising questions and sharing fun stories about their favorite cafés. Laughter buzzed among them, and Matthew felt an enormous lift in the heart. The more they practiced, the more energy flooded through their interactions, transforming hesitation into excitement. Better connections came to life with each small conversation. Instead of shying away from invites, Matthew even volunteered to help with an upcoming team event, feeling truly part of the team for the first time. As days went by, Matthew witnessed the change they longed for in their life. Small, intentional actions paved a golden path toward stronger relationships and fulfilling conversations. Each time they stepped out of their comfort zone, Matthew felt bolder. No longer did they perceive social interactions as scary. Rather, these became chances to grow and connect. This newfound passion built an atmosphere of encouragement within Matthew's life. Recognizing small wins shifted everything into sharper focus. Matthew knew now that the real key to making bonds lay in those little steps. Warmth greeted them from others each time they reached out. Little by little, progress unfurled, wrapping around them with bright possibilities. It was just the beginning of a beautiful journey toward deeper relationships and true connections. Now, Matthew felt hopeful about every encounter ahead, knowing that small changes lead to great strides in their social journey. Following action, as the weeks passed, Matthew continued to embrace the social skills they had started to develop. Each day became an opportunity for practice, and slowly but surely, their confidence grew. With each small conversation, from greeting coworkers to joining in discussions during lunch, Matthew began to notice how things changed in their interactions. It was as if someone had lifted a heavy curtain and let bright sunlight shine into their social world. Light and warmth replaced their previous fears of awkwardness and rejection. During team meetings, Matthew started contributing more. They would raise their hand to offer ideas and ask questions without the agonizing hesitation they had once felt. There was no longer a tight knot of anxiety in their stomach as they spoke. Instead, they experienced an exhilarating rush of energy whenever they were heard and valued. Their teammates responded positively, nodding and smiling at their insights. Every encouraging word from a colleague added fuel to Matthew's flame of growth. Reflecting on these changes warmed Matthew's heart. They no longer felt invisible while on the job as before. Sitting among colleagues and knowing that their voice would be respected felt empowering. To them, it was not just about speaking up. It was blossoming into the person they wanted to be. Conversations that once felt daunting had transformed into welcoming opportunities. Matthew now found it easier to connect. They were actively engaging with others instead of just waiting for someone to notice them. Outside of work, Matthew sought chances to build relationships in daily life. They made a point to talk to a neighbor while walking in the park. "Hi, how are you enjoying the nice weather?" they asked, smiling brightly. To their delight, the neighbor responded with enthusiasm, chatting about their favorite places to explore outside. These everyday exchanges became moments of joy, each one feeling like a small victory. Every new person they spoke with felt like planting a seed of connection. During casual outings with friends, Matthew noticed a different dynamic. Rather than just listening, they began asking questions about their friends' interests or weekend plans. "What are you up to these days?" they would say, their eyes gleaming with curiosity. Engaging others further opened doors to deeper conversations, where laughter and shared interests wove a strong fabric of friendship. Building authentic connections felt refreshing after their long journey of uncertainty. With each experience, Matthew's mind settled into a place of peace. They realized they had power over their progress. Mirroring the aforementioned brightness in their role at work, outside contexts began to feel equally fulfilling. The heartfelt moments shared with friends and strangers added to their skills and strengthened their bonds. Challenges that once seemed overwhelming became manageable steps, leading toward a lifestyle filled with connection, laughter, and understanding. Matthew's journey was not without its bumps. Some interactions still felt awkward, but that was okay. They understood perfection was not the goal. With heartening reflections on their tasks ahead, they knew worth lay not in choosing the right words, but in the genuine effort of stretching beyond their comfort. They celebrated each moment, big and small, each laugh shared, and every honest conversation. Through this growth, Matthew felt hopeful and in control of their future. The path ahead unfolded with beautiful potential, and each new day was a chance to cultivate even strong connections. Watching themselves flourish, they couldn't help but smile, knowing that they had forged change through persistence and heart. As Matthew embraced their growing confidence, they began to notice something troubling at work. While they had flourished in their interactions, they witnessed a colleague named Tom being treated poorly by their boss. Tom always seemed stressed and withdrawn, his bright personality fading under pressure. One afternoon, as Matthew watched the boss speak harshly to Tom over a minor mistake, something clicked. They realized that this behavior was not right. This moment ignited a fire within Matthew, pushing them to act. Taking a deep breath, Matthew approached Tom during a break. "Hey, I noticed how the boss spoke to you. That was not fair. You deserve respect," they said with sincerity. Tom looked surprised but relieved. He had felt alone in this struggle for too long. "Thank you for saying that," he replied quietly. "I've been thinking about saying something, but I don't know how." Encouraged by Tom's response, Matthew decided it was time to take a stand. They couldn't just sit back while toxic behavior continued. The next morning, Matthew prepared to speak with their boss. They felt their heartbeat quicken as they walked to the office. This was a crucial moment that required strength and resolve. When they entered the room, Matthew recalled all the self-affirmations they had practiced. "I deserve to be heard," they reminded themselves. Approaching the boss, Matthew said firmly, "Can we talk about how you've been speaking to some of the team?" Surprise crossed the boss's face. "What do you mean?" They sounded defensive. "I mean that I've seen you speak harshly to Tom. It lowers morale, and we work better together with respect." Matthew stood tall, despite the wave of anxiety rushing through them. As they spoke, they noticed the shift not only in their voice but in their body language. The clarity of their purpose made them feel strong. For a moment, the boss sat in silence. Then, their reaction was unexpected. "I don't think you know how stressful it is to manage this place," they snapped back. The tension hung heavy in the air as Matthew braced for rejection. Still, they didn't back down. "I understand it's tough, but you can create a better environment for us. We all want to do good work." It was a bold challenge, one that Matthew had never before dared to make. The exchange stirred something in the atmosphere, and while the boss seemed rigid at first, Matthew saw a flicker of surprise. This reaction showed that perhaps their words had made some impact. Though the tension didn't dissolve, they had taken the first step toward change. After the conversation, Matthew felt a weight lift from their shoulders. A sense of empowerment washed over them. They had planted a seed of hope not just for Tom, but for the team. When they returned to their workspace, Tom glanced up at Matthew. "You were brave to say that." "Thank you," he said, a hint of appreciation in his eyes. Matthew smiled, heartened by the support this small act of courage had sparked. Others in the office began to notice the shift. Some colleagues approached Matthew, commending them for taking a stand. They shared similar stories of difficult interactions they'd faced, further reinforcing the importance of speaking up for what was right. Yet not everyone showed support. A few co-workers whispered quietly, casting skeptical looks. "What's wrong with Matthew?" they muttered among themselves. But with every skepticism they faced, Matthew felt anchored by the newfound strength they had developed. It was clear that change sometimes came with resistance. Matthew understood this was part of the journey, but they would not let doubt derail their efforts. The urgency to uphold rights and disrespecting treatment burned brightly, and this fire would guide them forward. As Matthew settled back into their daily routine, the seeds of change were apparent. With each effort to stand tall in their beliefs, they grew more significant, forming a new network of support, understanding that boundaries strengthened not only the work environment but everyone involved. They would continue to fight for respect and fairness, knowing it mattered deeply to their growth and happiness. In the days that followed Matthew's bold conversation with their boss, a small but meaningful victory began to unfold. The first change came during a weekly team meeting. The atmosphere buzzed with possibility as Matthew and their colleagues gathered to discuss recent projects. To Matthew's surprise, Tom stood up during the meeting. "I'd like to say something," he began, looking directly at their boss. "I think it's important that we all feel supported here." Matthew made some good points about respect and how it helps everyone do better work. The room went quiet as Matthew felt a wave of gratitude wash over them. Tom was taking a stand, too. It felt incredible to have support from a colleague. Other co-workers nodded in agreement, echoing similar sentiments. "We work better when we uplift each other," another co-worker chimed in. "Let's show that we care." This wave of support built a friendly environment. The shift they had hoped for was becoming real, and it can do wonders. After the meeting, Matthew felt a deep sense of satisfaction. They realized that by standing up for Tom, they had started a movement of encouragement and solidarity. It showed them they could affect change even in small ways. As they walked back to their desk, a smile spread across their face. Matthew knew they were part of a team that believed in lifting one another, and they felt lighter than before. Soon after, another positive moment came when Matthew tackled an important project. It had been a challenging task, involving team collaboration and feedback. Instead of feeling stressed, Matthew approached it confidently. They broke down the project into smaller tasks and organized everyone's input. By clearly communicating goals, everyone understood their parts. As the project went forward, communication flowed easily. Matthew encouraged their colleagues to share ideas freely. Colors and excitement filled the office as creativity bloomed. It turned out to be one of the best collaborative efforts the team had experienced. At the end, the project received positive feedback from upper management, and Matthew's heart swelled with pride. They felt proud of leading something that had turned out so well, and in that moment, it was clear how much they had grown. These wins had a ripple effect on Matthew's mindset. Each success reinforced the belief they had gained. With careful practice, they learned that asking for help, fostering collaboration, and giving encouragement were keys to not only improving work relationships but also building self-confidence. Every step, big or small, contributed toward a culture of respect and camaraderie. Now, for those reading Matthew's story, the key to success lay within the steps they had taken. Each little action built a foundation for a better work life. If you want to create positive change, start by being supportive of others. Look for chances to stand up for yourself and your colleagues, even in small ways. Remember to communicate clearly. Breaking tasks into smaller steps helps make projects manageable. Letting go of fear is the first step in unlocking your potential. Seek unity with those around you. Celebrate laughter in the little moments together. These are powerful. Most importantly, believe in your ability to transform your environment. Just like Matthew, you too can turn barriers into bridges. In this journey of growth, take each challenge as a building block toward a more fulfilling life. As the days progressed, the atmosphere at work felt lighter. Together, everyone was creating a culture of respect. The changes were real, and with each small win, Matthew felt energized, ready to meet the next challenge with confidence and excitement. It was not just about personal success, but also about nurturing those around you. With this mindset, the possibilities were endless, paving the way for new beginnings and deep connections filled with warmth and camaraderie. Resolution. As the months went by, Matthew's life transformed in remarkable ways. In both their workplace and personal life, they now felt a strong sense of belonging. Each encounter was marked with warmth, laughter, and genuine connections. With newfound confidence, Matthew walked into the office each day, carrying a sense of pride and purpose. This personal growth reflected not just in how they communicated, but also in how they perceived every interaction. Matthew realized their social skills had opened doors they never knew existed. In the office, colleagues now often sought Matthew's input when brainstorming ideas. This was a dramatic change from earlier days when they had felt invisible at meetings. Sharing ideas with Tom and others felt natural, even exciting. Together, they cultivated an inspiring atmosphere where everyone's voice was valued. Matthew led projects with renewed enthusiasm, promoting teamwork in a way they had always hoped for but never believed possible. They remembered how awful it felt to stand in silence. Now, as they encouraged others to speak up and share, Matthew felt incredibly fulfilled. Matthew also saw improvements in their friendships. Outside of work, connections deepened as they engaged more meaningfully with friends and family. Weekend gatherings became more enjoyable as Matthew openly shared stories and laughter. They took the initiative to organize outings, inviting friends to try new activities together. Before, it had been so daunting to reach out. Now, asking friends to join them felt like a joyous invitation rather than a chore. Every phone call made and every invitation sent became a testament to their growth. One evening, when sitting with good friends at a local cafe, Matthew reflected on their journey. The warmth in the room and the laughter shared confirmed that their discomfort had transformed. "I'm so grateful for you all," Matthew said while looking around the table. "Thank you for being here. It means a lot to me." When they spoke, their voice rang with authenticity and assurance. Their friends returned smiles full of enthusiasm and understanding, reassured by Matthew's words. As Matthew's social circle expanded, they found new avenues for growth. Joining clubs and volunteer efforts sparked more connections with others who shared their interests. The apprehension of stepping out with new people faded, instead replaced with excitement and anticipation. Each interaction felt less about impressing others and more about exchanging stories and building connections. Matthew also understood the importance of setting clear boundaries. Through the lessons learned, they became more assertive, valuing their time and energy. The previous season of hesitation about speaking out had vanished. They no longer hesitated to share feelings or express concerns, instead embracing open dialogue, whether in friendships or professional settings. Through every challenge faced, Matthew's determination to improve shone brightly. With every new interaction came growth. The transformation they had undergone was not just about personal connections, but also about cultivating a legacy of kindness and support. As the story came to a close, Matthew felt empowered by their journey. They recognized the immense value of social skills in nurturing rewards, helping them create deeper, more meaningful connections. With every moment shared, every story told, they celebrated life with newfound joy. The future looked radiant and full of possibilities. Equipped with the tools to engage, Matthew knew they were in control of their happiness. They looked ahead, ready to embrace each new day with hope and curiosity, inspired to continue the journey of connection and friendship. As the seasons changed, Matthew found themselves reflecting on how far they had come. The growth they experienced radiated outward, reshaping not only their own mindset but inspiring others around them. In the office, colleagues would often reach out to Matthew for latest project discussions or for advice. It became clear that the atmosphere had blossomed into one filled with respect and collaboration. Matthew felt a sense of belonging that was once merely a dream. Feeling more confident and empowered, Matthew began to consider new opportunities. They had always thought of changing jobs but were too afraid to step out of their comfort zone. However, the lessons learned throughout their journey pushed them to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. One sunny Thursday afternoon, an exciting job opportunity came up. It was for a position in a team that focused on creativity and innovation, a role that suited Matthew perfectly. With the newfound skills in communication and teamwork, the thought of applying didn't feel intimidating at all. "Why not go for it?" Matthew said to themselves. A small but fierce spark of courage urged them on. They updated their resume and wrote a heartfelt cover letter. Instead of fearing rejection, they focused on what they could bring to the new team. This shift in perspective opened a door to new possibilities that hadn't existed before. In the coming weeks, Matthew prepared for a series of interviews. They practiced common interview questions with friends while incorporating the social skills acquired: active listening, maintaining positive eye contact, and conveying genuine interest. Feeling ready, Matthew stepped into the interviews with the confidence they had worked hard to muster. After a few waves of exhilarating discussions and anticipation, the exciting news arrived. They got the job. Celebration followed with friends and family, and Matthew felt a mixture of pride and gratitude. Stepping into this new role represented growth and courage, but it also symbolized the value of connections. They understood how all those hours of practice defined their success and reshaped their life. Matthew realized that every small improvement they made earlier led to this moment of triumph. But while new beginnings awaited, Matthew knew challenges would still arise. With changes would come new obstacles which Matthew felt ready to tackle. Equipped with resilience and valuable lessons learned, they decided to approach each new challenge as a way to grow. Instead of feeling fear, they would view it as another chance to learn and develop. In this new journey, Matthew would stay committed and remind themselves of their own strength. To ensure they maintained their proactive mindset, Matthew promised to set aside time each week for self-reflection. Writing in a daily journal would allow them to assess their thoughts and feelings frequently and continue to cultivate a positive mindset. They remembered how far they had come and needed to celebrate these victories, big and small. Regularly taking stock of their experiences would keep them feeling empowered. As Matthew prepared to start this new chapter, they felt a surge of hope. This journey that began with fears and uncertainties now transformed into a voyage toward deeper connections and bright opportunities. Each new day would hold fresh challenges and growth, but now, they faced it all with enthusiasm. With heartfelt gratitude, Matthew looked toward the future, excited to embrace every laugh, every challenge, and every beautiful interaction that lay ahead. The lessons learned would continue to guide them, reminding them that transformation starts within. From this place of empowerment, Matthew was ready to discover new horizons and take on the world one step at a time, filled with joy and the promise of adventure.